We have another James Strickland bench press workout here. So he's actually going to be competing in May, and we're going to sort of as like a kind of a trial, just to sort of like almost as a heavy workout. He's not going to actually peak for that. The big show will be in July. He's getting a little heavier now. He's going up to 555 for 3 sets of 3, and let's just watch, see what he does here. It looks looking pretty good to start off. I would say this is definitely, obviously you can't just say because he necessarily did a lighter weight this fast, it's going to be, those first 2 reps are the fastest I've ever seen him move 555. See in the third and final set. Great speed. This is the best he's ever looked with in the mid 5s for reps, because last year, his at this time his PR was 550 for 3, kind of a sloppy bounce, touch and go. Now it's 555 for 3 sets of 3, very easily with a lot left in the tank. Onto the close grip decline presses. Those are getting much stronger too, as you can see. And we've already talked a little about the benefit of those. Just sitting there and pumping them out all day. Yeah, it's going to be very exciting to see exactly where James ends up this year. So on to some cluster sets here for some seated rows. Strong back equals a strong man. A big upper back is a great pad to bench press off of. So what you do with the cluster sets is to get a lot of work in a short amount of time. He's going 5 reps, resting 15 seconds, repeating that sequence for 5 minutes. If you're going to do something like this, you would start with a weight. You could do about 15 reps with your goal is to be able to keep that same weight up the whole 5 minutes. It's very difficult. It's a great way to get a ton of work done in not very much time. I actually did this myself for a number of exercises yesterday, training them. So he sped it up here. Obviously, he didn't want to bore you guys to death here and show every single set in regular speed. If you're more interested in just seeing sort of cluster sets and more real time here, check out our previous video we just did on the 30-minute leg annihilation. I'll give you an idea of cluster sets and how to use them. So James will be competing at the Woodlands strength conditioning meet. It's a USPA meet in Houston, Texas in May. They host a lot of good meets down in Houston Woodlands. That's the northern Houston area. It'll be very, very exciting to see what James ends up doing. Okay, so the dips, we like to change accessory exercises, but in reality, James's dips still aren't where they 100% need to be. So what we're doing more on these is varying the rep schemes more. So he's going, higher reps here. As you can see before, he was doing, heavy sets of 5, things like that. Getting a good range of motion. James is getting his upper arm to about parallel to the floor. Sticking the lockout at the top, because we really want to make sure these are working his triceps. Because as James has sort of evolved, it used to be, it kind of goes back and forth by how we're training. His sticking point has changed, because it used to be right off the chest, and it was becoming more toward lockout, and it just kind of depends. So dips are going to be very good for lockout. They're actually very good for strengthening the entire range of motion, because very good cases have been made for them being the best, sort of the upper body squat, the king of upper body exercises. Other cases have been made, and the best tricep strengthener, because some interesting MRI studies showed dips were one of the only, major compound movements that hit all 3 heads, like taxed all 3 heads of the triceps. So here we go into the dumbbell 4-5s. We've talked about these before, just to ensure a great range of motion. A lot of people feel better than these on their shoulders, because they're not going too wide and they're hitting that same spot every time. You want to stop them about, about 4 or 5 inches apart, so you can keep the tension on the pecs and not just ride the momentum through. Go down, pause on the floor, break up the eccentric concentric chain, and don't think of these flies as any sort of like press or extension. You want to actually think of them as like a giant bear hug. Let's get a good pause at the bottom. So every time, it's this exact same range of motion. It's not how, a lot of times flies sort of morph in over time to some sort of crypto, press or extension. These are the exact same every time. So now we have James onto the decline tricep extensions here. This is getting a nice, good controlled negative, exploding the weight up. These feel by controlling the negative like that. So if you've never done these before, start them off yourself with like a 5-second eccentric, and what that does is it's a very good way to feel that mind muscle connection. It's going to feel better on your elbows too. So if you're having trouble, activating a certain muscle group, which is important on these isolation exercises, they're not, just move from point A to point B as forcefully as possible. You want to make sure the triceps are working here. So you want to you can slow down the negative and really feel it that way. Another way to do that is I've talked about before, if you're in trouble like feeling a certain movement, a muscle you're trying to work, is isometrically contract it for about 6 seconds as hard as you can prior to doing that lift. So if you're having trouble feeling your triceps when you're trying to feel them on a tricep isolation exercise, you'd sit there, you would contract your triceps as hard as possible for 6 seconds, then immediately go over into the exercise and see if you can feel better activation that way. This is also good to watch. You guys are going to be excited now because James, we're going to show some more of his workouts and his training sessions here, and he's going to start getting a lot heavier now with meet season approaching. You've seen he's done a great job in his off season. He's done a ton of volume, which the beauty in that is it allows us to taper properly. When you have that big base like that, you can get away with it. You can get away with a really nice taper because the residual effects of maximal strength, especially when it's not a real high skill movement like a bench press, can last for quite some time. So really that can kind of be manipulated to your peaking advantage when you lay a good base in the off season.